get ministers who are against this to come with you. We had like 6 or 7 of them at the last Oldham County board meeting who were all against LifeWise.
Do you have a copy of that speech?
Someone's
We have the
recording.
video.
Oh, okay.
All right.
I have notes of it.
So before I get started, I'm going to share my T-shirt. And I might as well share this. I'll share this ad. This is a full-page ad that we dropped in the Oldham area this past week, actually on Thursday, with the expectation our school board was going to vote on Monday, which they're not going to do now. That's a whole other subject. But we dropped this full-page ad, and I'll leave it up here for you guys to see. But it's basically educators in our county speaking to the issue. A couple of the QR codes about the bottom. One of the QR codes takes them to the Board of Education, actually board members, so they can reach out to them directly. And one of the QR codes is actually, I've also got it up here on the stand. It's a 3-minute video that we're going to start using nationally. Actually, my son put it together. He was a filmmaker in Hollywood, so he put together a 3-minute chalk video. You've seen those really cool chalk videos. This one's really cool. He's really good at it. And this one's designed for you folks to use here in Indiana. It can be used anywhere in the country, but the one he originally made was specifically Oldham County. He finished this one up last night and put a dub over it so it no longer says Oldham County. But you'll have to take a look at it at some point. But anyway, so with that, I'm coming from this from a little different perspective. First of all, I also have kids in Oldham County. In this particular case, I've raised 5 children. I have 16 grandchildren, of which 4 are great-grandkids. All of my kids have graduated from Oldham County schools. 8 of my grandkids are going to either graduate or are in school or something. So I have a personal investment in this as well, all right? I'm not a lawyer. I'm a longtime activist. I was chair of the Democratic Party in Oldham County. I've done a lot of stuff, but I've been an activist for a very long time. And I take this very, very seriously and personally. So what I want to do today is, first I'm going to give you a little history on Americans United here in the United States, and then a little bit of talk a bit about LifeWise and how they are using a loophole in the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. And then I'm going to list a few strategies that I think might specifically help you guys, all right? Because that's why we're here today. Some you probably heard of already, maybe not. Hopefully we'll be able to figure some things out. And then we'll open it up for questions. All right, so Americans United for Separation of Church and State was founded in 1947 by religious, civic, and educational leaders who were alarmed by the Supreme Court's decision in Everson versus Board of Education. While the court upheld the idea of a wall of separation between church and state, it also, at that time, allowed public funds to be used for busing children to religious schools, setting a precedent that actually worried a lot of people. Leaders like Methodist Bishop G. Bromley Oxman and author, I can't pronounce his name, Paul Blanchard, I think, created Americans United to push back. Though it began as a predominantly Protestant group, believe it or not, Americans United has long welcomed anyone who supports the principle that government and religion should remain separate. Today, nearly 80 years later, American United continues to work with advocacy, litigation, and public education. It remains the only national organization focused solely on separation of church and state issues. In Kentucky, especially Louisville, we partner with local groups like the Kentucky Secular Society, Freedom from Religion Foundation, and Indivisible Louisville, all of which groups I'm actually involved with a lot, to educate the public. And we do this, quite frankly, this is really important. I think you guys are going to be able to use this, and we'll talk about this when we talk about strategy. Through community outreach. We set up booths at festivals like Nuru Festival, Spring Fest, Louisville Pride Fest. We want to educate people as much as we can, all right? Next Sunday, as a matter of fact, we'll be at the People's Palooza at the Trellis Brewery in Louisville, if anybody's over in that part of the town. Actually, and it's put together by Indivisible Louisville, and it's going to be a really big event. There's some really big bands and big people that are going to be there. Oh, you guys, yeah, good for you. And I actually I brought one up over here on the table too. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity because that is specifically targeting the rights that we're losing in this country, all right? So it's specifically targeting. I'm going to speak to the issue as it applies to separation of church and state. There's going to be some other speakers that are talking about it from their own perspectives. So anyway, you can see that you can see over there where it's going to be at. All right, so let's talk about LifeWise Academy a little bit differently than what these folks have been talking to you about. They are exploiting a 70-year-old loophole in the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. In fact, I'm going to get this out there right now. A a lot of people don't know this, but they are actually dropping a national screening of a documentary in all theaters across the country on October 23rd. That talks about how they're driving their big red buses through that loophole. It's scary. If you have not seen the trailer, you need to go out and look for LifeWise documentary, October 23rd, and you're going to find it. And I've already looked, the tickets are on sale already, and they are going to be in every single theater around us. Now, it's not a very long documentary, but it's very dark, very scary from our perspective. And when you see it, it's going to be stunning. All right. So anyway, so that clause says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. For decades, that's been interpreted to mean public schools cannot endorse, fund, or promote religious activity. But in 1952, the Supreme Court ruled in Zorak versus Clausen that schools, there we go. Right here. Sorry about that, guys. I find that I can actually make the letters bigger on here than my writing. Yeah, here we go. For decades, that's been interpreted as public schools cannot endorse, fund, or promote religious activity. But in 1952, the Supreme Court ruled on this case that schools could release students during the school day for religious instruction if, 1, it's voluntary, 2, it's held off campus, and 3, no public funds are used. That decision created the legal foundation for LifeWise to drive their bus through this loophole, right? They partner with churches, because, by the way, LifeWise is not a church. Let's be very clear about that. LifeWise is not a church. They go into communities and find churches to be in. They are not a church. It is a business, right? They partner with churches, ask for school cooperation, and pull students out of class for religious instruction, all under the label of release time. Why is that a problem, even if it's technically legal? Because people do ask that. And you're going to get asked that. Amongst your friends and family, go, so what's the big deal? You know, if it's legal, you know, technically, okay. Well, LifeWise walks a fine legal line. Their practices often undermine the spirit of church separation by public school schedules are being altered to accommodate LifeWise, right? Staff may be coordinating logistics, using taxpayer-funded time to help a religious group. So as soon as that teacher puts a pen to paper for 15 seconds and writes down on a roster what that schedule is going to look like for that child to be able to leave class, that is a solid breaking of the establishment clause, because that person is now using our money to further the goals of that organization. And I think there's going to be some opportunities to really blast that. We're going to talk about some ways of doing that, all right? Staff may be coordinating logistics. Peer pressure causes many parents to feel their child must attend to avoid being left behind or being bullied. Like you said, you know, kid doesn't want to have an ice cream, right? Students who remain in class often get lost in instruction, while those who attend LifeWise are essentially rewarded with their time out classes. LifeWise often receives preferential access that would not be given to non-Christian or secular groups. Misuse of public resources. Even though LifeWise says they don't use public funds, in practice, school staff escort students out to the bus. School buildings, buses, communication systems might even be used to support that. That's happening in Ohio. There are school systems where they're using school resources. We're going to talk about that a little bit. If that happens, even indirectly, that's a violation of the Establishment Clause. Period. We've seen schools in Ohio provide lunch aids, provide lunch to the students before they get on the bus. Access to Wi-Fi, giving these folks access to the school's Wi-Fi, even letting them use their facilities. And it's all come through, and all that information comes out of public records requests, and we'll talk about how to do that. So what can we do in Indiana? Here are 5 clear action things that I think might be able to help you guys push back. You have to demand transparency. All of this organization thrives on secrecy. You know, like Mike said, they're usually around phase 7 before anyone even knows what's going on. He and I had a conversation with a Pulitzer Prize winning reporter for the Courier Journal, Joe Girth, probably some of you guys have read it. So we spent an hour with him this past week at the library. He's going to do an article on this. He's going to blow it up pretty good, we think. He had not heard of LifeWise. And he's pretty well, he's got his ear to the rails, right? He'd never heard of it. And what he didn't know at the time, and I didn't know it either, but the Jefferson County schools, they're at phase 8. And nobody knows that.
Wow.
Yeah, they're at phase 8. Now they keep dropping. What happens is they might reach at 8. They'll get, like in our case, they were at 7. We kicked them back to 4 because we found out what the heck they were doing. We had a board meeting, right? So all of a sudden, so it can, at least in our case, it can go back and forth. So anyway, transportation plans, staff assignments, copies of any memorandum of understandings, MOUs. Teachers might know what the heck that is. But anything, make sure there's transparency, and you have to really stay diligent. And quite frankly, as a group, you probably want to actually assign those kind of roles to specific individuals so it doesn't fall through the cracks. Ask specifically, are teachers adjusting instruction time to accommodate LifeWise? 2, educate the community. I can't stress this enough. My role in my organizations that I'm in, I'm community outreach director in every single one of those organizations, because I think that getting the word out on anything is critical. So many parents don't realize that LifeWise is a sectarian religious program. They just don't know that, all right? Host town halls, table events. Most of the things, these small community things, a lot are free, or at least not real expensive. And if you tell them you're if you are a nonprofit, if you tell them who you are, they might let you in for free even if they charge. Distribute flyers. Distribute flyers. There we go. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. Distribute flyers. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, and then write op-eds. If you have somebody in your group that's really good at writing, you start writing to the newspaper all the time, writing op-eds and finding different things to write about. Stay on it, pressure every single time. You have to keep the pressure on. Focus what LifeWise teaches and how it disrupts classrooms without attacking religion itself, and that's important. And I say that because I come from a whole different background. I'm an atheist. I'm a non-believer. I was a Catholic. I am an atheist, and I make no bones about that. And I've got some pushback. Hey, the reason you're doing this is because you're not religious. You're anti-religious. I said no. It's no more me saying it. If I said I was a Muslim, if I said I was a Jew or whatever, I'm against this because of what it is. It has nothing to do with religion. It just doesn't. Anyway, push for clear school policies. Encourage school board members to prohibit staff involvement during school hours. Hold their hands to the fire. Talk about the written opt-in consent. Make sure that there's a written opt-in consent. And then, I don't know how your schools are structured, but make sure that's happening.
A written what?
Written opt-in consent. In some cases, hopefully, I don't know what your situation is, but make sure it's an opt-in, not opt-out. Yeah, not that they're automatically enrolled, but they're right. They have to opt in. And demand legal reviews of any LifeWise agreements. If you have an attorney locally that can take a look at that stuff, you ask them to look at that so you can get a legal interpretation of whether or not what they're doing is legal. All right. Use the law. That's 4. Number 4. If public funds or staff are involved, get a hold of ACLU Indiana. There is one. Right. Reach out to Americans United, AU.org, real easy, AU.org. Even the threat of a lawsuit, quite frankly, can sometimes get their attention and slow them down. It make it a little more uncomfortable. In your case, it's a little bit different, but by a threat of a lawsuit, if a school thinks that they are breaking the rules by, let's say they assign a teacher, or they start handing out lunches to go on the bus with these kids, they can't do that. That's the sort of thing that if you go in, if you track it, and you keep, if you know what's going on, then in fact you can say, you know what, we might just have to file a lawsuit. And that's when you reach out to AU.org or the ACLU of Indiana. All right, number 5, restrict participation to non-instructional time. Indiana law requires LifeWise, I looked this up, requires LifeWise to work with principals to schedule sessions that minimize disruption of instructional time. This is Indiana. That means schools can say LifeWise may only that means schools could say LifeWise may only happen during lunch or recess. I want you to think about this for a second. When that happens, so what LifeWise thrives on is getting kids to opt in. They go in, they recruit. You've heard a little bit about using business cards, candy, all this stuff. The kids come back, they tell their friends, hey, come to this. They sign up for it. When kids sign up for it, they're signing up for it in a lot of cases because they get to cut class. I mean, these kids aren't dumb. They know they get to go get off the campus for an hour. They go have some ice cream, have a party. They're not really particularly probably caring about what's going on. However, if you make that only during lunch or recess, they can only go during lunch or recess. The kids go, well, I don't want to miss lunch. I don't want to miss recess. All right, so not as likely to go. Statistically, we have a statistic to support that if you do that, LifeWise drops by more than 50% of their enrollment. Students don't want to give up lunch or recess for a Bible class, but skipping math, that's a no-brainer, all right? Yeah.
Hallelujah.
I mean, it feels like a party, right? So we explained, and I have to tell you, that 3-minute video talks about that. That 3-minute short little chalk video is really cool. All right, final thought. So if LifeWise were a Muslim or Jewish group, we talked about it a little bit, trying to pull students together for this, they'd be out with pitchforks. They just would, all right? Satanic Temple. If they came in, you bet they'd be up in arms, right? If not, the preferential treatment of one faith over other, you just can't do that. All right, so let's talk about this. Okay, so it's about, we got to make sure that the schools remain neutral. We talked about it. I don't want to go over this too many stuff. All right, so let's stay vigilant, stay organized, really, really, really educate people. We're doing this, and here's the thing. I see most of us in here are all grandparents, all right? Come on. I'm a great-grandparent for crying out loud. So what you need to do is you need to somehow or another reach out to the young people, because what I'm afraid of is going to happen here, folks, is that for the most part, most parents really aren't engaged with what's going on in their kids in school at a high level we would like for that to be. So they're going to be willing, if a kid comes home and says, hey mom, I want to go to this LifeWise program, geez, they're doing this, and then mom's going to, dad's going to go, well sure, it's a church, how bad can that be? And he's listed all the reasons why it's bad, all right? So that's where that comes from. And with that, we're going to do questions. Oh, one thing I did want to show, just to give you some idea where this is at, and I'll put these over here. This is the United States. There's a national organization. It's called RespectPublicSchools.com. If you haven't gone there, you need to go there. It's called RespectPublicSchools.com. It's a national organization that tracks the progress of this organization, steps 1 through 10. This is the national map. All that green is where they're targeted. All the red, this is the red around us, guys. This is Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky. That's where these folks are already in the schools. They've targeted the entire country. This didn't happen overnight. That's what I also wanted to say. I saw a lot of, I can't believe we're doing this, faces, and I've been there. But I really think we can come out of this on the positive on the other side. But this didn't happen overnight, and it's not going to get fixed overnight. We just have to stay diligent and communicate to our families and friends. So, all right, with that, we'll do questions, and I'll get out of here. Thanks, guys.
You all, we're getting ready to do question and answer, but to follow up on the end of his, I want to be sure that I mention, some of you right now, and this may preempt some questions, some of you right now may be going, okay, well that's all great for Kentucky, you all are a May state, we're a shall state, which means that if they do approach your superintendent, they can't just say, no, we're not going to let you pull them out of school. They have to find a way to accommodate them some way, okay? However, there are a lot of little things you can do to annoy this process, right? That will make, that I think if a lot of people do this in school systems in states like Indiana, you will eventually have superintendents going to the state level going, guys, this is disrupting our entire, don't do this to us, okay? And one of them is have multiple people, we did this and we found out one of our board members was helping accommodate this. We did an open records request and got all the emails that had to do with about what communications about LifeWise. Get multiple people to file open records requests. Just call the board and ask them what their process is. And they're by law, they should have to turn over to you all the communications and things, emails and so forth that had to do, what's that?
They have 5 days.
Yeah, and most places have 5 days to get that to you, okay? Another thing is you tell your principal or you go to the board, tell your superintendent, we absolutely do not want them putting any educational materials in the school during open house, PTO. Now, just because we have to let them take kids out of school, I don't think there's anything in the law that says we have to let them put their stuff on our tables, that we have to let them pass out cards in the school. Tell them, you better not let them do that, okay? There's another strategy for you all right? Make them stick within that, the law says 1 hour. Make them stick to that as far as gathering time, travel time, and return time. No, that doesn't mean you can keep them for an hour. That's an hour total, right? And so you're not going to take them for a full hour. And then the legal things, right? We've got to get some of these larger organizations. I know do something in our group. We don't have enough money to hire a team of lawyers and all this, but there are national organizations like the ACLU and others who do have some money behind them, and they need to start looking at this about using the teachers to move the students. That can be legally challenged. The special needs, students with special needs have the IEPs, the individual education plans, and those IEPs are required for them to get so many hours of service per week. If they are signed up for LifeWise and this is interfering with them getting those hours, then there's another legal challenge right there. Another one that I'm going to start putting out there to some of my fellow educators is the teacher sick out that they used in Kentucky. Is that, a lot of teachers are against this. And hey, if all you guys call in sick on the same day, they can't have school. When you have to shut down the school, you think that's going to get their attention? You better believe it will. All right? So there are things that you can do to annoy, and if enough school systems do this, like I said, next thing you know, you'll have the superintendents going to the state level going, guys, this is disrupting everything. All right, so anyway, I wanted to be sure. What was the one thing you wanted me to say?
I think, well, just to follow up with it is policy. Does your board have a policy for release time for religious instruction? Okay, that's got to be the first thing you all ask, okay? If they don't, then they need to be developing one. Any board worth its salt has to have something to go by, right, to protect itself. And if you will go to Honesty for Ohio Public Education, they have a toolkit. And it walks you through what to do in a shall state to help guide and talk to your school board and what to ensure goes into that policy. Mike has referenced a few of those things. You want those to be put into a a district policy. So it's Honesty for Ohio Public Education. It is their toolkit, and I'll make sure I send that to Kathy and whatnot so y'all can have that, okay? The other thing I'm going to recommend is that you, if you haven't, you go to Secular Education Association. That is the gold mine for all resources, videos. Go to their YouTube and you'll get a series of 5 training videos so you'll learn everything about and some strategies, etc. I've also talked to Molly and Zach, who are the head of that, and told them what you all are facing. And if you all leadership want to get on a conference call with them, we'll help set that up so that you can, they're in a may state, okay, they're in a shall state, they understand that, and they're willing to jump in and brainstorm.
And they respond quickly. Zach and I have been back and forth, and he's quick. A lot of folks don't respond.
And we sent a press release to Kristen and Susan that has a link that has a lot of these materials in there. Yeah, Susan.
I just want to clarify, John, I see a lot of people here taking a lot of notes.
Yeah.
Please know that we at Do Something Southern Indiana, we are collecting all the notes, and we will make sure and get all these resources to you. So don't feel like you need to run off until we start to get those to you. Additionally, I've already reached out to Zach. Are we talking about Zach Parish?
Yes.
Yes. and he has volunteered to come down
Good.
here
Yeah, right.
and
Yeah.
speak to us, which will be another opportunity for us to learn a lot. So that's one of the roles that we are doing at Do Something Southern Indiana, is to make sure that we are all as informed. We're gonna bring you as much information as possible and then try to mobilize people. So,
Yes, sir, up to the back.
Okay, as a former chief academic officer, I'm sitting here going, you know teachers are touching it. You know permission slips are going out.
Yep.
The time it takes to move 80 kids is incredible.
Yep.
What if a bus breaks down? What are the background checks? I'm just gonna say, I did talk to the assistant who is in charge of curriculum, and their answer was, it's out of our hands. It's the Supreme Court. We don't have anything to do with it. We have to follow the law. So, that was my first response, but you've given me a lot of things, and through Do Something, we are gonna follow up on all of these things, but it's just, we're not gonna worry our pretty little heads back. That's the impression I got from them, and believe me, I love public schools, taught them my whole life. There's good people, they're kind people, and they're dedicated to their kids.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of administrators going, I want this.
No, sure they don't.
So how can we support them too? I don't want to bash them, but I want them.
Push for policy.
Okay.
Push for policy and ask for some things in that policy. And that's why it's so important to go to that toolkit so you can get ideas of that. For any, I'm gonna get on my preaching here, okay? Public ed. For any public educator to throw their hands up and just say, well, we just gotta do it. You cannot advocate your responsibility for kids' safety like that. You could ask, for example, I saw in one policy that was suggested by the organization, it's, I don't know the name of it, but it's NEOLA. NEOLA sent out policy suggestions, okay, for administrators and boards. And it has things in there that can say no incentives are to be given by any program that comes in, okay? Any program coming in wanting release time for religious instruction, you can't give incentives, because can you do it during the regular classroom time? No. So there are things like that you're gonna want them to embed in their policy, okay?
What about insurance liability issues for both the district, LifeWise, and the location?
We think they're opening up a can for
They are,
themselves there.
they absolutely
It's
are.
one car accident, one bus accident, one slippery road, one sexual assault or
One
harassment.
bullying harassment.
Online, this is something we haven't talked about, online bullying.
We got a question.
I mean, no, this is encompassing a lot of I have like 100 questions, but, as somebody who's I've worked in the school system, I've also worked a lot at camps, and rigorous, qualifications and training, are these people first aid trained, are they CPR trained? Or what about when I worked at a camp that's at a church before, everyone who works there has to go through an online program about sexual predator.
Yeah.
Is any of this happening? And then that leads into another 100 questions, but who's responsible? Inevitably, there's gonna be a breakdown in the system, and I hate to say it, but kids are gonna get hurt or abused, or even a little accident, or a kid might stop breathing or something like that. Is the school responsible for that? Are these people, this is a nonprofit, I'm guessing.
It is.
Even though they're making, at the local level not so much, but at the higher level so much, I'm guessing they also don't pay taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
But who is responsible, and who even gets sued?
So my understanding is, going back to what you originally asked, is that they only have to pass an FBI background check. Now, from being an educator, all the trainings that we have to go through, we have to do the suicide prevention, we have to do the bloodborne pathogens, there's a whole list of them that we have to do. And are they gonna have to go through all those? I haven't read anything about that. Are they truly qualified to deal with some of the things that we're trained to deal with? And that could be a huge issue,
And ask, once again, if they're shaping up policy, right? The board is shaping up policy for any group that comes in. Those are the questions to ask the board. and to ask them to put that into their policy,
I
right?
mean, who even checks their driver's license when they're taking these kids to an oversight location? Where's the oversight?
So I will tell you, LifeWise, each school has a logistical proposal that's put together. This is one for a school in Ohio, all right, that's exact sentence. You know, we can park these documents. I know Mike's putting together a Google Doc, but we can park these. I just got this, but it's actually what LifeWise outlines as their responsibilities versus the school responsibilities, the training that they claim that their people are going through. You know, the scary thing is here, folks, is that no matter what kind of training that they actually end up doing, because I have to tell you, I think at some point that they will have their training bar pretty high, but the problem is anytime you're exposing kids to a broader audience of adults, teachers, whatever whether they're being exposed to, it's not a healthy thing. All right. Now you can make it, and they will come back and make the argument that, well, gosh, the kids are doing it because we gave them my permission. That child has my permission as a parent, and that's always going to be their argument. If I decide that I want my child, if I'm okay with him being at risk on that bus, that's my decision. All right. The biggest fight here, folks, is they're coming into the schools to recruit. You know, and that is to recruit. And then also the using of the teachers' times in the school. Because their argument, and it's going to be a very successful argument, I'm afraid, is that if I decide for my child that I want them to do this, irregardless of what your prejudices are, or whatever you think, I think it's okay. And that's where this all falls into. That's the loophole, all right? So you have to stay diligent. I would suggest, because my background is organization, I'm not an educator, all right? But I'm pretty good at getting things done in terms of being an activist. And you have to assign roles to people in your group. If it's one person to write to do the specifics having to do with the teachers, all right, or the school. And what I mean by that is writing those letters of open records law, specifically listing those things. And the reason I say that is because if you think it's going to be done by somebody, you don't want to just assume that somebody's doing it. Assign it to somebody. Assign to somebody everything that we're talking about. Make sure that they're doing it. Get somebody to write your op-eds. That's one person or two people, right? Have a team and organize them in such a way that every single box is being checked off for everything that you need to go after the school for. Because you're right, the teachers, honestly, I would hate to be a teacher right now in this environment. I mean, that's awful. It's awful. So I think you're gonna find that they're probably gonna be, they might under the table be, allies, right? I think it's just a matter of opening up the thing of communication, let them know that you're sympathetic. It's not their fault, for crying out loud. So you'd want to be careful not to accuse the teachers, of course, because then you make an enemy. But
most teachers and principals don't want this.
no, right?
They
They
don't.
just don't.
I think now, I'm sorry, Anita, I think now is a good time to mention that we have everybody's attention. It's Do Something Southern Indiana's intent that this coming Tuesday, the 23rd of September, at 7 o'clock, we will have our first, what I would consider to be a mobilizing meeting, where we will start to assign
Good.
roles for what we believe needs to be done, because you're right, it's gonna take each one of us.
And where is that meeting here?
No, it will not be here. I will give it out, it's at my private address, so I think we have flyers.
And when there's flyers over, there's
Flyers
little
on the
quarter
table.
flyers over there.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Tuesday.
This Tuesday.
This Tuesday, September 23rd, not 24th. Your email is wrong. If you got it from me. Okay.
Let me also just say on that point,
Real quick.
that, thank you, you'll see little posters around the room. These are QR codes that'll let you fill out a form that'll make sure that you get on our mailing list and tell us if you want to be involved in this initiative.
Good
So
job.
please
Is
gotta
it
share
an
it.
accessible place? Well,
Susan.
I'm a former teacher
Yes.
from Oldham
Yes.
County. I live in Floyd, but I taught in Clark. And Borden and Henryville have this in place now for first, second, and sixth grade. And I saw on Facebook that they're asking for someone to be one of the teachers in first grade, and you don't need it says you don't need a degree or anything, but you just need to have taught Sunday school or something like that. And so, and they've got prayer week this week to pray for celebrating the success of LifeWise in Oldham Henryville School. So they're really going after this, but what I don't understand, it's hard to do anything because the state of Indiana says that they passed a law that if people request it, you have to do this.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's absolutely correct. And they do, however, and the part that becomes in our benefit here, or on our side, I think, is that they do, but they still have to follow certain guidelines and rules. And that's the reason she was talking about policy. It's important to make sure that the policies in the school are such that it really, really narrows their impact. And not just narrows their impact, but makes it easier for you to define and catch them where they're using teachers' resources. Because they will. They won't have a choice but to use teachers' resources. That's your taxpayers' dollars. That is directly against the establishment clause.
There's 2 points if I could with that brought up. Back to the question about liability, the parents sign off, okay, and part of that statement that they sign off with LifeWise, they promise not to sue LifeWise.
Oh my.
So, you will, it doesn't take anybody, too much to envision who they will sue, agree?
Right.
So they're going to go after the school board with that. That is an issue that, like for us, because we are a May state, it's a huge thing, right, about the liability and them going to be sued with that. So that's a big leverage point. When the board is making a policy, okay, to allow anyone in, Clark County, Floyd, whatever, they have to take these things into consideration, okay? So I want to make sure you knew that the parents are saying, we won't sue you LifeWise, so where's that directing it to? And if you think about this whole model, right? When something goes astray, who will be sued? School. And it's most likely, when it's first forms, the problems that will arise is that a parent, which is happening in Ohio, it's happening in Ohio over and over again, and Zach will tell you this when he's talking to you, guaranteed. Basically, people are calling in, filing complaints over and over again. My teacher tried to talk my son into going to LifeWise. They handed out, it almost has become like a tip line to turn in. So think about it. Here LifeWise comes in, sets all this up, but who will take the brunt of all the problems that arise? The district. The district will get sued because of separation of church and state. They will violate it because some teacher will do that, okay? Or they'll have a liability issue that they'll have to deal with, the district will. LifeWise can just stand back and kind of go like this. I would also, and I think John would agree with me, this is untested legal.
Right.
It's untested. No one has had a legal claim yet run up the system to see if this form of release time for religious instruction meets all that standard, okay? So we're uncharted, and it's legal till it's not, right? That's just where we are. There's that uncertainty. I just want to make sure I said
May I
that.
make a comment? May I make a comment that's something that wasn't touched related to this? So every incorporated congregation, church, whatever, they put a picket fence out and say, whatever, Church of the Holy Rabbit, whatever. They're gonna have insurance, liability insurance, okay? So while a family can sign off and say, we won't sue LifeWise, right? And the district will try to also avoid responsibility, which will ultimately come back to them. If you find out where they're going to be sending those kids, because churches are nonprofits and they should be certified, you should be able to look up the state of Indiana. You can find my church right now. We're in good standing. It costs us $25 a year to tell you that. They have property liability issues in every congregation. So when I want to make a park at the church, I have to ensure that only church members will use it, or our liability will go, insurance will go up in case a kid comes and breaks an ankle. So there is a very, you got to fight fire sometimes with fire, as terrible as it sounds. Find out where they're going and ask, because it's a nonprofit, who is their insurer? Who's insuring them? Make sure that they have liability insurance, and that will scare the church.
There's a lady who's had her hand up for a while, yes ma'am.
I'm not
clear on who gives the okay for this. Is it the school board or is it the
Nobody gives the
principal?
okay.
The state has already given the okay. All right?
They get into specific schools, like the principals okay it to.
No, in Indiana, LifeWise has been lobbying states to have their laws changed so that they don't have to go through the school boards or through the principals. They just have to say, here we come.
Okay,
So-
so like in Greenville right now, they just.
So we need to write to the state legislators.
Correct. Nobody had to okay it, except for the parents.
Yeah, and they're
Well-
putting stuff in the school newsletter.
Yeah, like, how does it?
Okay, they're not supposed to promote it in any way.
We get a weekly newsletter, and at the end it always has like community flyers and stuff, you know, it's like 15 pages long. So it's got stuff, the library, sports organizations, tutoring, and that has been on there since the beginning of school.
They cannot promote it in any way.
See, and so that's, she said that's been on a document coming out of the school?
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's an example, guys. That is a really, hey guys, so that is a really good example of what they're not allowed to do. All right? They're not allowed to do that. So, and that's the reason I think it's so critical that, and especially, because here's what we're worried about in Kentucky. Right now, we are a May state, right? Quite frankly, if we win enough of these battles and we push back and school boards say no in enough counties, it's a pretty good safe bet the legislature in our state, which is ultra conservative anyway, and they have a big majority, it's going to make it a shall state, right? The same that you guys are. So we're trying to sort of build that thing going into it right now. So you just need to make sure that you're structuring yourself so that you can track all of those issues. Put them on paper, make a list, and then make sure that you're contacting either AU, nationalau.org. But it's important to keep track of all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you all thought about, or are you aware of any other groups besides LifeWise that are pursuing these sorts of programs?
So, let me address that, because nationally, no, and here's why. LifeWise is part of Project 2025. Right, this is not happening by accident, guys. This has been coming down the pike for a long time. It's just, quite frankly, everyone else has done is sleep at the switch, and that's just a fact. AU is caught flat-footed. Everyone in this country that's a large organization, FFRF, all these organizations were caught flat-footed. Did not see this coming. And these guys have had their ducks in a row, so that's the reason no. There is no other organization that I'm aware of and that Americans United is aware of on a national basis that is as organized, as as well funded for sure, and is as effective. They're good at what they do. They really are. And that's the reason we have to be just as good and diligent on our side by being trying to get policies in place where you can, that without directly saying, no, you can't come in here, make it so damn difficult for them to be there that they're not going to want to do it. Yeah.
Don't you think that part of the problem is, like my granddaughter that I'm raising is going to a school in New Albany. I don't get to see what they get at their school. That would have been on my radar even. And then all of the parents I'm talking to have no idea.
No, they don't.
They go, what are you talking about? I've never heard this. And I go, yeah, you better be watching out for this. And then when I find out it's in a newsletter, I'm like,
Yeah, well, let me
That's
give
what
you all a
we need.
heads up
They
on
need
something.
policy. They need a policy. That's what we need to talk to the
I
school
mean, none of
board.
us.
Yeah,
do
yeah,
anything
Yeah,
to
you've been around for a long time. Yeah.
I have complete ignorance before I ask this. I am in fact a former administrator of one of these buildings. To you, my understanding of curriculum at the time I was an administrator, you had X number of hours to curriculum. You had X number of hours, could not take lunch or recess away from anybody, period. So you are still legally bound, if I understand it, to provide lunch, the core curriculum within certain amount of hours, and still get these kids on and off of this little bus. I do not understand, and I'm very simplistic at this, how you can possibly do that.
Well, that's why
I
they,
mean, mathematically speaking, it's not I mean, it's just not
It's the
there.
same way that Noah got all those dinosaurs.
Well, that's why they put it during related arts and they put the entire school on special area or related arts, but you know, as a former principal, you can't.
Related arts are included in that time period.
Right, but
Yeah, they
they,
can't
no,
measure
the law in Indiana now makes it to where you can pull from those times.
Oh,
They've changed the law.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get dressed up in it 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the law is they can do that.
Now, my next very simple thing is, has anybody contacted the teachers union yet? Because I guarantee you, I had teachers that would have been up my behind by now.
Yeah, but here's the thing, I think the challenge is going to be, it is the law. And here's what, from a 40,000-foot level, guys, these legislatures are doing this because they know that it's getting people's attention. It's part of it is a political stunt, to be fair. I mean, part of it draws attention. They're getting donations pouring in by the gazillions because they're getting people riled up, all right? Those guys they're making a ton of money off of this. And we're the ones suffering, the teachers are the ones suffering, the kids are gonna be the ones suffering, all right? But if it's something that the
It
teacher.
does sound like a serious violation of contract.
Well, I don't know that.
I mean.
I don't know that.
Yeah, that's why we think there are legal challenges there to be had. We just don't have the money to fund these legal
The
challenges.
teachers union does.
Well, to your question, just on an anecdotal piece, okay, of this. Because I immediately went to, were the teacher, when this is when we found out about it, like this is happening. We're like, were the teachers like for this? Because you never know, right? Communities, whatever. Well, all the word coming back was no. And I said, I really want to hear from some folks. So anybody wants to, they can talk to me confidentially. I'll never reveal, blah, blah, blah. I went through all this stuff, right? And the words that came back to me were, we're too afraid to speak out. We're too afraid. And that's just the environment we're living in, okay? So I do have a phone call out to American Federations for Teachers in Lexington, Kentucky, okay? And they're supposed to be getting back to me to see if they will do something, but they're not the strongest union in Kentucky, or association, actually, KEA is. And it's that whole dynamic. Yes, they will, but honestly, what we've talked about, the more local people you have fighting the battle, I think it's more effective.
Yes.
To be honest. Having Rich come and talk as a local pastor and as a parent. Having Mike come, who was one of the top teachers in the district, who had children to go through. His wife, who was an exceptional teacher, who's still teaching. That means a lot to the board members that are having to listen to this, right? So encouraging you all to find retired administrators. If you got retired board members out there who will speak up, right? Employ all these people that you can to be the front facing of the opposition here. You have to, more than anything, because the law, you're up against that, right? But what you have to have, I think, I would suggest to you as a strategy, you have to expose the brand. You have to expose the brand.
What they're doing.
Who LifeWise is, what it is. If people don't sign up, their program goes away, right? And they've had that happen. They've had that happen in
And do
schools.
you have to let them come into your school to sign up the kids?
No, that's another thing. That's what I'm saying. Annoy the heck out of the principal. Like, put somebody in charge of your principal committee. You're in charge of getting 10 people. You all are all going to call the same principal, and you're going to tell them, I better not see any information in the lobby, in the front office, on parent night, and you better not let LifeWise come in and give the teachers brownies. They do that. They bring cookies in for the teachers, and they do that. We don't want to see, because nothing in the law says that you have to allow that. I got something top secret to tell you all too. You didn't hear this from me, okay? But I found out from a reliable source that they are meeting, and he has to grant them a meeting. They are meeting with the superintendent of Clark County Schools within the next week. Now is the time to start annoying the crap out of Greater Clark County Schools. Greater Clark County Schools, start going to the board meetings, start going to the principals. What is your policy? What do you have in the policy? What are you doing to make sure that these people are trained? What are you doing? You know, they better not have, like I said, these promotional material. You better not have kids coming back, because you can see a video online where one of their trainers is bragging about how if the kid gives out 30 cards to other students, they get an ice cream party. All right? And you tell them, your kids, those kids better not be bringing back cards for ice cream parties back to the school. You start annoying the crap out of them now. All right?
And be proactive, because like she said, no one didn't know these other schools. One of the things that we are starting to have, I think, some time to even think now, one of our next moves is to notify every school board chair and every superintendent in Kentucky. We're going to try to be proactive to send that information out to say, this is LifeWise. They're coming. If you need to do blah, 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 you need to do blah, blah, blah. So one of the things, once you get that capability, is to let other schools know. Try to get on the front end of them before LifeWise gets into that community and does whatever. Try to, once again, go after the brand, right? Not religion. I think John's very much right about that. But make sure you go after the brand. Try to get in front of some of these schools right now.
Right. You cannot battle this, guys. You cannot battle it based on their beliefs. You can't.
Well, but you can let parents know that this is Christian nationalism.
Yes.
Right. Correct. Right, you can't, what I'm saying is, because you have to remember, it's the parents making a decision for their child to do it. So it's a battle that, we would disagree with it, but if they're telling the school and sending a note that they're okay with their child learning this, it's not the battle, okay? It is a battle, but it's not the battle. The battle is how they're using the school resources, how they're bringing stuff into the school to promote it in school. Those are the key battles that's going to push back against these folks.
And how they misrepresent themselves.
Right, misrepresent.
Because that's, to me, and I think they would agree.
I'm sorry.
How many
We
things
have
have they
questions.
said?
Yeah, she's had her hand up.
We're just not
We're
true.
gonna do
Right.
it.
Yeah, I know. I think if I'm hearing you right, though, what you're saying is the winnable battle.
Right.
That's what,
Yes.
I'm watching what you're saying, like,
Yeah.
that's where the vulnerability is.
That's
the argument.
exactly right.
And I say on my end, the most powerful arguments are always the moral arguments. This is immoral, period.
Right.
But pointing out the legal vulnerabilities
That's
and the
right.
immorality, pointing out to the parents what it's doing, it's going to impact. Some kid's gonna commit suicide that has 2 dads and 2 moms.
Okay, so that's one of the big part of my question. This is gonna cause a massive amount of bullying.
Oh, it already has in Ohio. It already has.
I have been involved in the school. I'm a parent, but I've been involved with the school and with children, with disabilities, with all kinds of things. I've seen other kids just, for religious reasons, push another child down the stairs and they got their arm broken.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this, for me, I can see this coming. I live in Harrison County and I saw a child that jumped off the bridge because they were being bullied. Like this stuff is insane.
It is.
And when you make something about someone's parents being gay, or you make it about their religion, or anything that they think is different, they're gonna go and they're gonna pick on that kid. And that kid isn't gonna be able to handle the stress. What is the school gonna do? The schools are supposed to have counselors on hand. They don't even have enough counselors to take care of what they have now. They don't have enough, yeah. I mean,
So you could ask for policy around mental health consulting responses to children who are taught by this religious moral instruction that their neighbors are threats to them and they're going to bully them for whatever reasons, right?
Right.
Make sure it's part of the policy.
And another thing, a lot of kids don't like to talk to counselors if they're being bullied or if there's a problem in the home. If they're being abused at home, if they're being sexually assaulted at home, what happens if they tell LifeWise? Is LifeWise required to tell the school? Because the school's required to tell the state.
Right. And do they have the right training to deal with that?
Right. And I mean, with the sexual...
Also something that be plugged into policy that you want to force the schools to implement. You know,
Yes.
that's the battle we're in, you know, it's just trying to play catch up and getting all those things into policies that can be, you know, so that you can manage it, you know, and watch over it with.
If you go to Secular Education Association, you can see all their training materials. If you, like that very thing, they do go through what to do with certain things, right? So I cannot impress upon you all enough. SEA has so much information there, training materials, videos, the whole shooting match. You can go in there and see what they're required to do or not do.
But it's important to understand, that's one of the big complaints coming out of Ohio from the parent groups right now, is that kids are being bullied, being told that you didn't go with us, you're going to you know where.
Your parents are going to.
Or your parents are, and that's already happening.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
We
awful.
see it coming
It is-
because we've
it is
got common
awful.
sense.
We all know it's awful. You've had your
Now,
hand
is Ohio shall or may?
Shall.
They from that.
Hey, guys, hold on a second, listen, real quick, I gotta,
You've given us lots of places to put roadblocks, and we appreciate that, but I guess I keep coming back to.
hey guys, one conversation, excuse me, one conversation, it's hard to hear.
You need a permission slip from the parents, is that correct?
Yep.
I keep thinking, where is that avenue for us to get to the parents? Do the parents hear about this from, so LifeWise comes to the principal, right? The principal then supposedly doesn't put out all the information. Then how do the parents hear about it?
We're getting a lot of media in Kentucky.
So they
We've been in a lot of,
hear
we've already been in the Courage.
And
You're asking how LifeWise gets.
Yes.
Yes.
They're on the Mount Fest today, they're at the Mount Fest.
So, real quick, hey guys, let's answer the questions, and I got an answer for that, because it's not part of the
It's
strategy.
just, how do we, target education to the parents?
Remember what I said about getting, so,
Urgent.
it's being in the community, it's going to these festivals, it's talking to your neighbors, it's talking to your kids, it's giving them information, it's giving them sources of information, like the website you talked about, and there's several others out there. But guys, we're behind the power curve, we just are. And it's frustrating as all get out. But it does have an upside that we can push back, it's just not gonna be easy.
I think we only got 2 minutes
Put it on
left.
social media.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get it out there.
back here, you have not had a chance to have your question, yeah, go ahead.
Is it part of the local school or the state level programs for when these places want to come in? I'm just thinking, you kept saying that they don't have any transparency, you can't get to look at the stuff unless it's for 48 hours. Do they not have to provide the curriculum that they're going to be teaching to the school board?
You gotta really understand, this is Project 2025. This isn't new. This stuff has been here for a long time. And the desire is that the United States of America is to be an Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Christian nation. In fact, that's the narrative. This is the outgrowth, poisonous roots, poisonous fruits. I mean, so.
What if a Muslim group comes in and says they wanna have classes?
They're not, they're not gonna, because they don't have the same mindset that the Christian nationalists do.
The Christian nationalists.
But I mean, the law says you have to let anybody.
I know we have, well, but they have